Hey guys, am I looking okay? Am I looking good? Do I look bad? Well, hi. Science. Nope, that's not. This is a new channel I am creating for YouTube, and it's based off Psych Substance. If you've ever seen the great channel Psych Substance, props to you, Adam. You're doing God's work, and I know YouTube is uh uh being a little bee about it, but you know you're giving harm reduction to kids that need this. They need harm reduction. Harm reduction with these chemicals that are being pushed, and the pharmaceuticals and all these things. There has to be some. They're not teaching this in school. They're not teaching this on TV. They're not teaching this anywhere. So YouTube is probably the best place for us to get our harm reduction experiences out, because I have a lot of them. I'll admit I'm an addict. I'm an addict of almost everything. I'm an addict of food. I'm an addict of sleep. I'm an addict of prescription drugs. Like, prescription drugs are probably one of my biggest addiction. You know, I have I'm not gonna get too personal, but you know, like I do have anxiety. I have a GAD, general anxiety disorder, and I have depression. I have insomnia. I have pain. I have restless leg syndrome. I have migraines. I have GI problems, is what I'm just gonna put it at that. I have a very rare condition, and that's probably one of the reasons I have such a bad addiction to things, because I just am trying to distract myself from my pain and my the hell that I was given from birth. So, all right, let's start with the first drug I ever did, which is alcohol. Most likely everybody is the first drug you've ever done is alcohol. Alcohol. Yes, it's euphoric. It's euphoric, and it's it's accepted, and that's why it's such a big deal. It's such a big addiction, because it's peddled at every store in your town. You can pick it up at a gas station. You can pick it up in a pharmacy. You can pick it up anywhere. It's everywhere. You can't escape it, which is bad. I mean, it's sad. It's bad. It's sad. It's all the above. I mean, my dad was an alcoholic, and I mean, bless him, but he, I mean, that's all that's legal. And I mean, that's one reason I believe in LEAP, law enforcement. I have a thing up here, LEAP, law enforcement against prohibition. I would take it down. I have a little printout of it's a law enforcement against prohibition. It's people, law officers that respect the fact that we need to legalize drugs now. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, but now, because it's everything's being put into the hands of the criminals, and the criminals are only getting richer, more violent, more organized. They're making they're making more people, they're converting more people to these substances. And not to mention, the fentanyl epidemic is the biggest. It's what's gonna break the camel's back, because this fentanyl epidemic is ridiculous. It's like they have to contain this, and until they legalize drugs, they're not going to contain it. Until they have a place, a store that you can, or a doctor's office that you can go and get a prescription for whatever you need. Like in Germany, in Sweden, they're testing heroin prescriptions, where they give out heroin prescriptions to people with terrible heroin addiction, with terrible, and their addiction could just be from pain, and they just aren't being treated right by doctors, and they aren't being given the right medicine, so they go to street drugs, and heroin is the biggest street drug right now. It's very cheap. It's It's $5 a hit. All you need is $5 to for a day of pain relief. So it's cheaper than marijuana right now. So this is a big problem. And fentanyl, I don't want to share this story, but I kind of want to have a little bit of a big shocker to start this my channel off. I went to go buy, well, not buy, my guy was offering me a free sample of some good cocaine, and he said it's really good, straight from Colombia, off the brick, blah 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 blah. And I did just a tiny little bit, just a tiny little bit, and I was gone. I didn't. The next thing I remember after putting it up my nose, there was EMSs all around me. There was the EMS around me, and they told me that I had overdosed, and I was in complete confusion. I mean, fentanyl is strong, and it was fentanyl. That was what it was. It was fentanyl, and this is the biggest problem. All these drugs are being cut with fentanyl. It did have cocaine in it. I tested it. I have a test kit, and buy test kits, kids. If you're gonna mess with powders, buy test kits and test your medicines. Test them. I don't use the word drugs. I call them medicines, because they're medicines. They've been since human civilization started. Opium and cannabis were both considered cure-all medicines, and they do have they both do have their consequences, but marijuana has much less consequences than opioids. So back to my story. Fentanyl. I overdosed on fentanyl, not knowing that it was fentanyl. I would have never bought it. I've always known to stay away from that stuff, because a grain of salt, a grain of it can kill you, especially if you're non-tolerant. You've never taken anything before. So and fentanyl will screw you up. I'm not talking euphoric screw up. I'm talking it'll feel like an elephant is on your chest, and you can't breathe, and your face is numb. Your lips are literally like, you literally feel like your face is falling off, and I mean, they have so many of these analogs of fentanyl. It's unbelievable. Carfentanil, which kills elephants. And my biggest question is why? What is the reason to make these fentanyl analogs? I mean, fentanyl itself is not bad in a hospital setting. It works. It's good. It's fast acting. It leaves the body quick, and it's cheap. It's cheap. And they can produce a lot of it. They can produce 1 billion doses in probably one day. So that's why the hospital uses it, because it's economical, and it does take the pain away. It's real hospital fentanyl is like Dilaudid, or heroin. I mean, Dilaudid is pharmaceutical heroin, so it's the same thing. But let's move on from that. That was a horrible ordeal. It was embarrassing. I've never overdosed on a substance in my life. But this is the problems we're facing these days. Is that we are having major issues with the fentanyl. It's these Chinese laboratories can crank it out like hotcakes, and it's in such little amounts they can smuggle it so easily. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense that they would put it out into the public sector. It doesn't make any sense. As powerful as it is to put it out into the public sector, it is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. It just goes to show how irresponsible government really actually is. It's not. They aren't they aren't the arbiter of truth. They aren't. They're out to make money. They're out to control you. And fentanyl, these drug lords, they love it because it gets people hooked real hard. Once you get hooked on fentanyl, you don't want to taste anything else. I mean, it's really good fentanyl is like really good heroin, and but it doesn't last like heroin does, and you'll be in withdrawals within an hour, and very serious withdrawals, and this is, but let's go to substance is a lot into psychedelics. I mean, I do like psychedelics, but I don't like talking about them as much because there is a lot of taboo-ness about psychedelics, and even Psych Substance is having issues trying to keep his videos up talking about psychedelics, which is ridiculous, because with freedom of speech we should be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's a plant. It comes from the ground. I mean, when you're dead and gone, this stuff is still gonna be around, but we can't talk about it. It's nonsense. So welcome to my channel. I still have not figured out the name for it. Anybody want to give me some inputs on a name? I'm thinking about the Gardens All-Nighters. The Gardens All-Nighters, like I garden all night, um, growing, entheogens, and growing, growing plants that, self-medicate and help you, make you feel better, and and uh, and 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 there's a lot of them, and let's name here. Let's start off by naming a bunch of these actually really rare ones that people don't know about. Kava, kratom, kava. Kava is a it's a plant grown in on some island. Let me pull up. I'm not too big on kava. It's not something that I would call home, but it's from the Pacific Islands, and it's you know it's like a natural benzodiazepine, if I could say it. I've had kava quite a lot back when I lived in the mountains. They had quite a few kava bars, and it was a very, very nice experience. Like, I mean, not just the atmosphere of the place, of the bar. It didn't feel like a bar where, like bar fights and loud and ugly music. It was calming and peaceful, a place where you could like talk to a woman and get to know new friends and actually make great connections, instead of having bar fights and loud music playing. And so yeah, I thought the kava bar model was an incredible idea. I'm actually wanting to open a kava coffee kratom bar myself, because those three things are legal still in America. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow they might be illegal. Coffee, kratom, and kava. But yeah. Here, let me take a little tiny break, and I'll be right back.